Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Om Bhu Bhuvaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat, Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. ओम सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सवीर्यं कर्वावहि तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहि ओम शांति 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 So we are on the last section of Kathopanishad, and we looked at verse number 2. That's where we were. यत इदम किंच जगत सर्वम प्राणे एजति निसृतम महत भयम वज्रम उद्यतम ये एतत ते विदु अमृता भवन्ति. Yat means which, idam means this. So this is verse number 2 of this last section. Kinch, whatever, jagat, the universe, sarvam, all, prane, the prana being present. And this pran really means Brahma. Sometimes pran word is used just like a atma word is used for different things, depending upon the context it has been used. So the same way pran also. Ejati, vibrates. Nisritam, having emerged. Having emerged from where? From the Brahma. Mahat, great. Bhayam, terror. Vajram, thunderbolt. Udhyatam, uplifted. Ye means who, etat, this, te, they, vidu, no, amritaha, immortal, bhavanti, become. This whole universe evolved from Brahma. Moves in the Brahma. The Brahma is a great terror. Like an uplifted thunderbolt, those who know this become immortal. Okay, so again, this prane means the Brahma as the master of the creator. This is the eternal reality, one source from which everything has merged out and into which everything is existing also. And it will merge back to that also. That is the Brahma we are talking about. And vibrates, ejati. We all know that everything is nothing but energy. This energy is vibrating. Atoms are nothing but energy, particles vibrating, and matter is nothing but a mass of molecules. The matter is nothing but energy vibrating. Even the science says that. So that's why this Rishi is saying creation is a motion, a vibration of energy. And it is possible for the vibration to maintain itself only if there is a motionless, non-vibrating medium, the absolute reality. So some substratum has to be there for the motion to happen. This constant change gives us the delusion of a form. Only there must be a constant medium for the changes to play on it. So the next word is Mahat Bhayam, a great terror. That means this whole nature is moving in a rhythm. And it's moving according to this immutable law that governs this movement of the stars also, of the planets also. There is a consistency, there is a constancy in the law of nature. Everything happens according to the schedule. That means there's some strict command over there. It's a very severe lawmaker, a strict maintenance of this law. So in this sense, Nachiketa ji is being told by Yamaraj ji that the finite world seems to exist and functions so diligently and readily as though there is a master up there. Master right behind with a raised whip. And that's what this Mahat Bhayam Vajram Udyatam. So ultimately, everything is coming from Brahma and everything is happening according to the law of the nature. And who created the laws of the nature? God, Brahma, and it's happening according to that. Whether there is a sun is giving the heat and the light, fire is giving that energy to us, the heat also, the light also. All this is coming because of this law of nature. So the ultimate source of all lives in active dynamic existence is this pure intelligence itself. Okay, so this bhaya over here really means not really a fear, but it really means everything happens according to the law. Then he says, Bhayat asya agni tapati, Bhayat tapati surya, Bhayat indra cha vayu cha, mrityu dhavati panchama. So he's giving us 5 examples over here. Bhayat from fear, asya of him. Him over here means Brahma. Agni, fire. Tapati, burns. Bhayat from fear. Tapati, burns. Surya, sun. In the second line, Bhayat for fear. Indra, the Indra Devata. Cha means and, Vayu, air. Mrityu, death. Dhavati, proceeds. Panchama, the fifth. For fear of him, fear of Brahma, the fire burns. Fear of him shines the sun. Fear of him do Indra, Vayu and death, the fifth, proceed with their respective functions. Whatever they are supposed to do, they do it. So had it not been for this eternal force, the supreme authority, Brahma, the systematic consistency of the law of the nature wouldn't be here. And this life, the so-called life which we say we enjoy, was not possible if there was no consistency here. For example, supposing fire chooses to take a holiday from its nature. It just does not give us the heat. Instead of heat, it gives coolness. No life would be possible. We expect that for the fire to give us the heat. In the same sense, the other elemental forces too. So universe is running smoothly and harmoniously in a perfect, orderly manner. Sun, fire, Indra, Vayu, and death. So these are the examples he is giving us, are all working with a beautiful team spirit, as they say, together. And there are other forces also, but he has given just these 5 examples over here. So this idea that nature strictly keeps herself within the word and spirit of the eternal law due to the very strict command. It's almost like a fear of the supreme. In the Taittiriya Upanishad also, it was mentioned. Okay. So numerical order, 5th is death. Number 4, इह चेत अशक्त बोधुम प्राक श्री रस्य विस्तरसा ततहा सर्गेषु लोकेषु शरीर तवाय kalpate. Ih means here. Here means in this life. Chet, if Ashakt is able to, Bodhum to comprehend, Prak before, Shri Rasya of the body, Vistrasa, death or fall. Tataha, then, that means otherwise. Sargeshu Lokeshu, in the world of creatable things. Sarg means creation. So in the world of creatable things. Sharir Tawai, to take a body. Kalpate, becomes possible. If here, in this life, one is able to comprehend him. Him means Brahma. Before the death of the body, he will be liberated from the bondage of this world. If not, then one has to take a body again in the worlds of creation. So this verse itself tells us what is the goal of a human. To know, to comprehend, to experience Brahma before the death of this body. It's not possible after we leave this body. It's possible only in a human body. Sharir Tvai Kalpate. So in other words, right now, we are ignorant. We think we are the body. We have forgotten our real nature, which is Brahma. So this ignorance, this avidya can be ended only with the knowledge. That's what he's telling us. Ignorance and knowledge cannot remain together at one place at the same period of time. When we have subjective experience of who we are, avidya is gone. So the ignorance of our real identity has made us identify ourselves with the mind, intellect, body, and a lot of other delusions also. So when we identify with the non-self, that is the start for our egocentric life of pains and limitations. Because no matter how beautiful or the strong the body is, limitation. No matter how clever the mind is, still limited. No matter how subtle the intellect is, still limited, because it's part of the Prakriti. There is no other achievement more sacred, glorious for us human beings within the duration of this existence as a human being than the realization of our real identity. We have come here to know ourselves, that we are eternal, we are part of Brahma. This is the thing we need to do. But the most important thing, we have just put it into the back burner, as they say. We think we can do it later on. Later on, everything else seems, all the superficial temporary achievements, they seem so important to us. This we just keep pushing it away. So Yamaraj is very kindly warning us, to anybody who's listening, anybody who's a sincere seeker, to strive hard in realizing this final mission of life, which will take the individual from the mortal level to the heights of the eternal perfection. This is what he is promising us. The supreme goal, he says, can be achieved right now. And man alone, man means a human being, okay? Not just a male body, but a human being, Alone is the sacred creature who has been endowed with the necessary equipments of this kind of an intellect and a mind. High reasoning capacity, where we can train ourselves deliberately to have a subjective experience of ourselves. As a human beings, we can do it. Animals cannot do it. Plants cannot do it. Reptiles cannot do it. Only as a human beings we can do it. So in this created world, no other creature has the divine freedom to speed up its evolution other than human beings. Let's look at next verse number 5. Yatha adarshe tatha atmani, yatha swapne tatha pitriloke, yatha apsuhu pari iv dadrishe, tatha gandharva loke chaya atpayo iv brahmaloke. Yatha means as, adarshe, in the mirror. Tatha means so or also, atmani, within one's own self. Yatha swapne, as in the dream. Tatha pitri loke, so in the world of forefathers. Pitri lok, ancestral world. Yatha apsu, as in the water. Pari iv dadrishe, seen like a reflection. Tatha means also Gandharva loke, in the world of Gandharva. Divine musicians. Chaya atpayo iv, as in light and shadow. Brahm loke, in the world of Brahm. Brahm is seen in the self as one sees oneself in the mirror. So that means as clearly. Brahm is seen in the self as one sees oneself in the mirror. In the world of forefathers, as one perceives oneself in the dream. In the world of Gandharva, as one's reflection is seen in the water. And in the world of Brahma, as distinctly, separately, as light and shade. As human beings, we are living in a plane of consciousness where we have certain kinds of experiences. And these experiences are gained through our sense organs and mind and intellect. Whenever our senses are reacting with the available external world of sense objects, we experience. So there are experiences in the waking state, then there are experiences in the dream world. So different state of consciousness, there's a different degree of experiences. He says Brahm can be experienced because Brahm is there all the time. So in the wakeful state also, in the dream state also, clearly you can see it. And in the, we says, in Pitri Lok also, where the forefathers are, Brahm is there too. And the world of the Gandharvas, Brahm is there too. So same Brahm everywhere. So whether it's a Brahma Lok or whether it's a Hiranya Garab or whether it's a Gandharv Lok, Loks look different to us, but Brahm is the same. So over here in this mantra, Yamaraj is trying to give the comparative clarity with which the absolute knowledge can be reached by us. And with a beautiful term over here, analogy, yada adarshe. It can be seen as clearly to us But we have to have a very highly evolved personality. But to learn how to transcend the lower and then reach the higher, to have this eternal knowledge. See, just like the mirror has to be clear in order to see our reflection in it. If it's dirty, if it's foggy, we won't be able to see it. But if that mirror is completely clear, life-like reflection we can see. The same thing over here. We have to transcend the lower and go into the higher. So the knowledge of self can be certainly most clear as black letters would be against a white background. So clear. Okay, so it's everywhere, no matter where you are, no matter what level of consciousness. So this process of self-realization is called a Krama Mukti. So he's just taking us through all these examples. Krama Mukti, liberation by stages. Rishi Patanjali talks about it in Yoga Sutras. Krama Mukti. Number 6. Indriyadam prithak bhavam ude astubhyo chayat prithak utpadye prananam matva dhira na shochati. Indriyanam, of the senses, prithak, distinct, bhavam, nature. Ude ast mayo, rising and setting. Cha means and, yat means that. Prithak, separately. Utpadyamananam, being produced, like an origin of something. Matva, known. Dhiraha, the wise person. Na shochati, grieves not. A wise person knowing well the separateness of the existence of senses and their appearance and disappearance to be other than the self, grieves no more for them. So in other words, the senses are separate from the Atma because they are effect produced out of certain causes, while the Atma is uncaused cause. Not only they are in themselves different, like Atma and the senses, they arise from different causes. Senses are constantly changing, eternally changing. They react from moment to moment, differently for different objects. When object is pleasing to us, senses react differently. When it's displeasing, they react differently. Any sense, it could be the eyes, it could be the ears, it could be the taste buds or the touch. So in the waking state, they are all quite receptive and available for their individual expression. Jagrata Avastha. But the moment we sleep, the capacity of our sense organs to react with their objects has been folded themselves into a state of dormancy. That's why when we are sleeping, eyes are closed and you can't even, if you are deep sleep, don't even hear anything. So rising and setting up, ude astmayo. So they have the folding capability and capacity in all the indriyas. It just manifests by itself. We don't have to even do anything about it. So the moment we wake up from our sleep, again, they have risen up too. So a wise person, when discriminates or differentiate between the senses and the eternal factor, the Atma, can see this clearly. Atma is always awake, always there. Then he says, if you have really discriminated this, understood it properly, what is there to grieve? What is there to grieve? Because identification with the Atma, if you have that fully, then there's no grief. Okay? Lord Krishna used that word many, many times in Bhagavad Gita. Na shochate. All our sorrows in life are due to our misunderstanding of our real nature. And that's why we become the victims to all our mental demands or our sensual appetites or intellectual assertions. But a self-realized person would eternally will be beyond all the sorrows. That's why they say the knower of the self goes beyond the shores of the sorrow. Tareti sokam atmavrit has crossed this ocean of sorrow. And we all have the capacity and the capability, and this is the goal for all of us, whether we do it in this lifetime or the next one. Now, next two verses, very similar to the verses in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 2. Indrebhya paramana manasa satam uttamam satvat adhi mahanatma mahata avyakt uttamam. This is verse number 7. And verse number 8 is avyaktat tu parapurusha vyapaka aling evacha yam gyatva muchyate jantu amritvam cha gacchati. Indrebhya, then the incenses. Param, beyond. Beyond means subtler. Mana, the mind. Okay. Manasa, then the mind. Sattvam, the intellect. Uttamam, superior, better. Sattvat, then the intellect. Adhi, beyond. Mahanatma, the great Atma. Mahata, then the great Atma. Avyaktam, unmanifested. Uttamam is superior. Beyond the senses is the mind. Beyond the mind is the intellect. Beyond the intellect is the great Atma. Superior to great Atma is the unmanifested. This great Atma over here really means the individualized soul. That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about the Paramatma. No. Paramatma is, there's nothing higher than the Paramatma, but he's talking about the individualized soul here. Then avyaktat, then the unmanifested. Tu means also, para, beyond. Purusha, the Purush. Vyapakaha, all pervading. So over here, this Purush is the Shuddha Buddha Atma. A ling, devoid of distinctive marks. A ling. Ling means the distinctive marks. A ling is devoid of them. Ev means verily. Cha means and. Yam is whom. Gyatva, having realized. Muchyate is emancipated. Jantu, the creatures. Amritvam, immortality. Cha means and. Gachati, he attains. Let me start with verse 7 again. Beyond the senses is the mind. Beyond the mind is the intellect. Beyond the intellect is the great Atma. Superior to the great Atma is the unmanifested. And verily beyond the unmanifest is the all-pervading Purush, devoid of all distinctive marks. Okay. See, the individualized soul has the distinctive marks. But this is devoid of all distinctive. That's why I said Shuddha Buddha Atma, knowing whom the creature, the knower, is emancipated and he attains immortality. Again, he's telling us what our goal of life is. Do not stay stuck with the lower. Try to reach to the higher. The Purush, or the subtlest of the subtle factor in us, is explained here as Vyapak, all pervading, and a ling. That's what we are. So the Atma in us is all pervading. And we just think that we are so limited. And from that limited awareness, we get all the sorrow. A ling without distinctive characteristics or properties, etc. It means that there are no properties or qualities or such other indicative signs by which we can directly perceive and come to recognize the self in us. So sometimes people say, how do I look like? What is the size and the shape of the Atma? There is no ling to it. There's no weight to it. There's no size to it. There's no color to it. It's a ling. He who realizes the self through a subjective experience not only gets liberated from the shackles of moral limitations, but also reaches the deathless state of eternal existence. That's what he's telling us. This is what happens. The knower of the Brahma becomes Brahma. Brahma with Brahma eva bhavati. Vedas declare that. So it's like again and again Vedas talk about it. It's almost like an incessant declaration of all the Upanishads, not just this Upanishads alone. Brahma with Brahma eva bhavati. But in order to become Brahma with, we have to do the sadhana. We have to let go of the lower. And what was the lower? Identification with the senses, identification with the man, identification with the intellect, identification with the ego. We got to let it all go. Only then we can see the beauty who we are. Sandrishe na tishtati rupam asye chakshusha pashyati na kaschan enam hrida manisha manasa abhikriliptaha ye etat vidute amrita bhavanti. This is verse number 9. Sandrishe, to the sight, that means the form. Na means not. Tishtati, available. Rupam, form. Asya, his. Chakshusha, with the eyes. Pashyati, sees. Na kaschan, none. Enam, him. Harida, by that which resides in the heart. Manisha, by the intellect. Manasa, over here this manasa really means by the intuition, higher mind. Abhikraliptaha is revealed. Ye means who. Etat, this. Vidu, no. Te means they. Amrita, immortal. Bhavanti, become. His form is not to be seen. Because there's no form. You cannot see it. No one beholds him with the eye. Because if there's no form, you cannot see it with these eyes. By controlling the mind by the intellect, okay, so because intellect is higher than the mind, control the mind with the intellect, and incessant meditation, he is revealed. Those who know this Brahm become immortal. So he's telling us how we can know. It's not that we can have 20/20 eyesight and we can see. No, meditation. Because we got to heighten our intuition. So self is beyond the fields of the sense organs, mind and intellect. So it has been repeated again and again in all these mantras. So in this mantra, he is explaining to us the last leap a seeker can make during his meditation. Got to learn how to transcend the mind and reach the land of the truth. That is the only method by which a seeker can realize himself through the faculty of which is called intuition. Intuition is a pragya. Pragya. We all have it, but it's dormant in us. See, just like a Kundalini Shakti, we all have it. The power is there, but it's dormant. So we got to do the sadhana so that get out of this dormant condition and we experience it. But we got to make sure that we are controlling the lower and reaching the higher. When the mind is silent, our intellect gains inner peace. This is like a complete peace, complete shanti in our buddhi. That means all the doubts, they are gone in that silence. Clarity is there. Because otherwise, if the doubts, the sanshayas are still there, the peace is not there. Those doubts, they keep on churning and keep on disturbing our intellect. So it is with this intuition, this pragya, that a seeker comes to realize himself. Lord Krishna uses this word, pragya. Sthit pragya. So intuition is nothing but the capacity to know the knowledge, experience the knowledge. And knowing the self is but the self becoming aware of itself. That's what this is. Let's stop it here. We can finish this rest of it next week then. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much.